So we are most honored all the way from the USA. We are going to explore the world of acting, what pushes the actors on, how it is enjoyable. Jeff, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
Yes, thank you. My name is Jeff Baxt. It's like Baxter, there's no ER at the end. I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the US, and I'm sort of in the third act of my career. First was in journalism, then PR, and now pretty much full time as an actor, primarily in theater and national and local TV commercials.
So my
And so
question here, yeah, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry for
that's all right. I
interrupting
was going
you.
to say that it's I love acting because the ability to move people with words is very potent. It's intoxicating. Okay, but you have to enjoy doing it. If it's work to you, it's not going to work.
So let's raise the question here. Like, when was the moment when you felt like you gave the most powerful words, or you felt the greatest impact on the audience?
Yes. Okay. So early on, I was appearing in a Young Playwrights Festival. That's where high school students write plays, and they bring in professional actors, directors to put it on. And so I was in one of these short plays, and it was a comedy, sort of along the lines of Faust, Sell Your Soul to the Devil. I was playing the devil, and the opening monologue, I'm doing center stage all by myself, and I said this one line that we had come up with during rehearsals, and there must have been, I don't know, 600, 700 people in the audience, and they just erupted in laughter like it was the funniest thing they ever heard. And these waves of laughter are just washing over me, and the more they laughed, the more I laughed in character. That's how potent it was. That's how intoxicating it was.
So can you say that line, Jeff?
Yes. Sorry, caught me off guard. Yeah, the line was, talk about your hell freezing over. That's the line that just made them go crazy.
Okay, fine. Okay, let me let me explore this a little more. Like, what do you think, from your point of view, are the main factors that would help make, let's say, a professional or a good actor?
Um, well, on one hand, I can say I have absolutely no idea because it's going to be different for each person. As one of my acting teachers, Austin Pendleton, who's a veteran actor, teacher, playwright, he says it's like a confluence of things. It could be, you go out for an audition and you didn't get it, but the casting director remembers you months later and they cast you in something else. Um, it's taking classes. It's, like I said before, it's enjoying work, making it that it's fun to do. Um, I remember when I first started out, I went to my first cast call, open call. That's where basically casting agency opens its doors and lets any and all actors come in for the day, maybe 2 days, and they take a number and you wait online, and then you go in for maybe 3 minutes to do a very brief audition, and then maybe hopefully they will remember you. Um, and I was very nervous. It was the first time I'd done one of these open calls. I had, at this point, I couldn't even get cast in the student film. That's how bad I was. So I did the monologue, and then he gave me some copy to read, and he stopped me and said, "You know what your problem is? You're not having any fun. That's your homework. Find a way to have fun with it." And then I started taking classes, including how to audition. And shortly after that, I started booking student films. And a year after that, my first TV commercial.
That is great. Okay, getting back to your relationship with the audience, like how much the audience affects you. Which is better for you, like to work and relate to the audience through the camera, or is it better in the theater or in the cinema?
I would say in the live theater, because you've got a live audience. The energy that comes off the audience can influence your performance. If they've got a lot of energy and excitement and liking what you're doing, that fuels you. And if they're not getting it, that can also bring down the performance. I think of a performance, especially in theater, as a contract between the performer and the audience. The audience's part is to suspend their disbelief and accept what they're seeing on stage is actually happening to real people. The performer's part in this is maintaining that illusion that they are really happen. This is really happening to them at this moment. But it only works if each side holds up its end. Plus, it's also linear. It goes from start to finish. In film, often, most of the time, they film out of sequence, depending on the day's schedule. So it never goes from one end A to Z. It'll go from B to F to G to Z.
Yeah. Okay, that is great. Okay, during the current circumstances, like all kinds of businesses have been, let's say, hugely affected and damaged, especially these industries which depend much on the attendance of the crowds and the audience. What is happening with acting in the light of the pandemic?
Well, there are parts now where they're starting slowly in the last few months to get back up to speed, but still maintaining COVID-19 health and safety precautions, wearing of masks, social distancing, requiring negative tests. But I only really started maybe a few months ago. Up until then, it was pretty much dead. And so more recently, in the last, I think, 4 or 5 months, I've been able to get auditions, which these days you have to tape yourself. So you have to also be your own producer, filmmaker, lighting designer, cosmetic specialist, wardrobe designer. So you have to be an expert on all these things because no one else is going to do it for you. And during the pandemic, it was very emotionally traumatic. It's been emotionally traumatic. I mean, the first couple of months of being in lockdown, I mean, it was even anxiety ridden going to the supermarket, and trying to buy a head of lettuce and maintain social distance. That's how racking it was. And then in the spring, a fellow actor, Rich Henkels, set up a Zoom meeting with myself and some other fellow actors to sort of check in and see how we're doing, since everything's shut down. And it was a good, it was really enjoyable to be able to talk and share, experiences and what we're going through and how we're dealing with it with other actors. And it went so well, we said, well, you want to do it next week? Yeah. And then next week became next week. And now we have basically a community, an organization of actors we call Actors Think Tank. In one aspect, we support each other in our efforts to continue acting, whether it's helping with taping auditions. In one case, I've helped some members with their public relations. Others have helped me be a reader when I'm doing an audition to tape to submit to a casting agent. We also have pretty much every week an industry professional come in, actors like Kevin Bacon, who's a Philadelphia native, producers, casting directors, coaches, cinema photographers, cosmetics specialists, photographers. So we're very lucky. It's almost a year now. We're very lucky to be able to do that. As I said, I've been able little by little, because I do have an agent, which is also can be a factor, who has been able to get me some auditions in the last few months. I've also come to realize, especially since the TV shows have started in new seasons, that the actors are wearing masks during the shows. I also read that in France, they're doing live performances while wearing masks. And I realized there really isn't, I guess, a workshop or a class or some way to teach people how to act while wearing the mask. Because even daytime situations, in the supermarket, on the street, whatever, and you're keeping social distance, your voice is getting muffled. I mean, even if you yell, raise your voice, it's still getting muffled. So some of the things you have to do is you have to speak very distinctly. Your pronunciation has to be very clear. I mean, you can raise your voice some, but you still need to be able to enunciate, or else it's all going to get swallowed. So I've started to develop a workshop in enhancing the performance while wearing a mask. I'm hoping to roll that out later this year.
Oh, that is great. And what are the main objectives for this program?
Well, as I said, because there seems to be more production, especially in television, where they're requiring the actors to wear masks in the show, in their characters wearing the masks. There's the handicap, as I said, about being able to be understood. I mean, sometimes they don't wear the mask the entire time. They will take it off at certain points, but you can understand them clearly. Maybe it's because of the microphones, the audio equipment. But as I said, you need to speak very distinctly. You have to look at the other actor's eyes sometimes to get their expressions, because you can't see how they're reacting down here. All you have is their eyes to see how they're reacting. Because half of acting is not just speaking; it's also listening. It's just not you're waiting for somebody else to say their line so you can say your line. You need to be also reacting or acting to what they're saying. Having some emotional response to it. So that's why looking and using your eyes, watching the other person's eyes, helps with understanding what they're going through.
Okay, so my question here, like acting with masks and this self-taping auditions, like are these pushing you to the limits and to certain skills that were not active before, like pushing you to explore new aspects of yourself?
Yes, and especially because of the think tank, I was motivated to start classes again, because it's a daily activity for me, and I needed to brush up my skills since I wasn't auditioning. So I've been fortunate to study with some well-known actors, Austin Pendleton, who's been in films, TVs, plays, has worked with people like Tennessee Williams, Meryl Streep, and Victor Cruz. And so not only am I enhancing my scene study skills, but also my filmmaking skills in order to do self-tapes or even create the short films, using an iPhone.
Okay, you mentioned the word study. Like, how much education do you give yourself? Is it like a part of your life, or is it an ongoing process? How long does it continue?
It continues as long as you feel it's benefiting you. I mean, as I said earlier, when I first started out and wasn't getting any parts, that's when I decided I needed to take classes. And then more recently, as I said, in the last year, studying with more experienced actors to make sure my skills don't atrophy. And again, it's a factor in becoming an actor, but it's not everything. And also at the same time, unlike athletes who have to basically be training 24/7, you can't be studying acting 24/7. You've got to be able to take a break, have other interests, have other activities. I mean, for example, I fence. I've been fencing for like more than 20 years now. So because by not acting all the time, you're also having experiences with other people, so you can use that when you are performing. I was just reading an article by the late Lee Strasberg, who was a legendary actor and teacher, and he said something about actors have to feel the rightness, if I remember this correctly, of what they're doing. They're playing a fantasy, but at the same time, they have to bring into that fantasy real emotions. So like if you're playing a character who's been fired, maybe it happened to you in real life. So you know what that feels like. And then you bring that emotion into the character and the scene.
Okay, so my question here, you have been through a difficult time through the pandemic. What other challenges have you faced with the acting career?
Well, as I think I mentioned earlier, I really do not have the technical skills for self-taping. Because of being in the think tank, I've learned more about the technology involved, filming on iPhones or iPads, the type of lighting I need, microphones, what makeup to use, costumes, backdrops, as you see behind me. These are all things I need to brush up on. The class I'm taking with Victor Cruz at HB Studios is more focused on filmmaking aspects to create self-tapes and short films and enhance the skills for doing that. So I'm very fortunate to be able to take his class.
What have you learned, or what main lessons have you learned through your journey with acting?
Well, like I said earlier, I love doing it. I realize now, in hindsight, I should have started doing that in the first place. I mean, started out in journalism. I thought I was going to be a journalist for all my life. At one point I worked at NBC News. I wrote for daily newspapers, various parts of the East Coast of the US. I thought that's all I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. And then at some point, I lost the juice for it. And then I went into public relations and marketing for the next 20 years. And then because of the economy, I kept getting laid off. And then about 2 years ago, after my last layoff, I decided to go into semi-retirement, work part-time in order to have more time to find acting opportunities and training. So those are the challenges that I've had.
Welcome on board, Jeff. It has been more than amazing and more than interesting talking to you and knowing about your great experiences. Thank you so much for that.
No, thank you. I hope it is of help to your viewers.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.